Okay, hi. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Kind of a Bitch. We are talking about probably my favorite aspect of this series. And if you have been following along, we are talking about Audacity. All right, this is my Audacity series. If you've been following along, we've already talked about the audacity to want more. And we've also talked about the audacity to take up space. Today, we're going to dive into something a little bit trickier, but very satisfying once you actually build the audacity. It's the audacity to say no. Yes, I know. I know. Saying no can feel wildly uncomfortable, especially if you are a people pleaser like me. It can feel rude. It can feel selfish. It can feel very scary. There's a lot of feelings that come up with the word no. Many people, including myself, were raised to think that yes is the safe, good, nice choice, right? Like help, accommodate, keep the peace. But what I'm learning is that constant yeses can leave you stretched very thin, very overwhelmed, and then not like totally present for the stuff that actually matters. You know what I'm saying? I have had so many experiences where I said yes when I could feel a pull to say no. I would say yes to projects. I would say yes to favors for people. I would say yes to people that I care about, obviously, but it was always so that I could avoid disappointing somebody. And I'm realizing now that every time I do that, I feel that little bit of resentment. And I don't want to say yes to things if I'm going to feel that resentment. Now, let me also provide some context. I am not talking about doing things uh, that we're not talking about like community building, because that is going to be a topic that is coming up. And one of the big phrases right now, and one of the things that I am thinking about a lot is inconvenience is the price for community, right? You are going to have some inconvenience in order to build deep relationships. But that's not what we're talking about here. Okay. We are talking about over giving, over committing so that other people stay comfortable, even if it's at your own expense. Okay. Today, the lesson is that the audacity to say no is not about being mean, but it is about noticing what matters and then making room for that. Today, we're going to explore what that looks like and about how practicing this type of audacity, this audacity muscle, can give you more clarity, more confidence, and freedom. Just going to be one little audacious step at a time. I, like many of you, most likely, if you were listening to this, I was raised to be a nice girl, right? It was being a girl. I think is we are often taught to accommodate and to take everyone else's feelings into consideration. We're about being considerate, right? And so I was quick to overcommit, to people please, to avoid conflict. And I think something, if I'm really sitting with it, something that I have always believed is that I should always help. I should always be available if someone needs it. If it's someone else's emergency, it is going to be my urgency, right? And a lot of that was that I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to disappoint anybody. But the consequence, as many of you know, the consequence of saying constant yeses leads to burnout. It leads to big amounts of stress. It means less time for the priorities, the things that are actually going to affect my life, being with my family, taking care of people who I love, spending time resting so that I can pour from a full cup. And the thing that it really started to show me was feeling this feeling of being trapped or this feeling of resentment towards the person who had asked for help, which realistically, that's not their fault, right? If someone has asked for help and I say yes, not wanting to, and then I feel resentment towards them, that is on me, boo boo, you know? So learning to say those no's, even though it is definitely an audacious move, it is so, so necessary. I just had one of these experiences actually. The other week, I had a client who was looking in an area that is very far from me. And I love that client. I freaking love being with that client. I find them to be a dream. I enjoy their company. They are easy to work with. There's a lot of stuff happening. But the place that I was going required me to drive almost 3 hours. Okay. It required me to drive a very long distance to get there. And I remember thinking to myself, I should pass this to another agent. I should pass this to someone else who can better take care of that person. I really just should. But there was this little piece of me, this voice in my head that was like, oh, that's not very nice. They love working with you. Like they're gonna feel like you don't care about them. They're gonna feel like you don't value them. They're gonna feel neglected. And then there was this other part of me that was like, and then you won't make any money. Then you won't like it turned into this scarcity overhaul, right? I really think that scarcity and saying no are these two opposing forces. It's very hard to say no when you're living from a place of scarcity. And so I found myself driving to this totally other city to go and show homes and it was very difficult because I wasn't even part of that MLS and there was so much more to it. But again, that wasn't my client's fault. That was totally me. And I only learned by saying yes that number one, I felt that icky, sticky kind of resentment feeling. I did feel it. But I kept saying to myself, well, you've agreed. So we're just going to do it this one time and see what happens from there. Right. And I realized during the process of driving down there and going to open the doors and do all that fun stuff, it became very clear that it was an easy no. It just took me, I was a little late. I was a little late to the no starting line, okay? But when I was there, after we finished our tours, I just said to my client, "Hey, listen, this is so great. I love seeing you. This was so much fun. I want to let you know I am most likely going to bring in somebody else so that I can make sure that you're well taken care of." And suddenly, because I had learned the lesson and I was able to learn it quicker than I usually do, it didn't feel bad. I didn't feel like I was not taking care of this client. I felt like I was actually able to take better care of them because I will bring in somebody else. And that is the art of having the audacity to say no. Now, on the flip side, I just met with a newer broker earlier this week, and this broker was having some difficulty setting some boundaries with clients. They were feeling as if they were overcommitting. They were taking on too much of the job. And for those of you who are not in this industry, much like many industries, there are many people who have to do their jobs in order for the deal to work. Just like the stage, there are tons of people, not just the people on the stage. There's people backstage. There's people on the sets. There's people who do the lighting. There's people who do the sound. There's someone up in the booth. There's all these people who all need to work together at the same time and at the right pace so that the show works. All right. And it's the same thing in real estate and in many other professions. And what this broker realized is that they had a couple of weak links. So they were taking on too many jobs. The lender was slacking. The title and escrow team were slacking. So this broker was running around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to make sure everyone would get on the same page. And so by the end of the transaction, they felt their client was stressed, they were stressed, and they felt completely overworked. They were making, the same money as the people who weren't doing their jobs on the transaction. And that feels very frustrating and resent making. You know what I'm saying? And so we had sat down because this broker had talked with one of my managing brokers who said, you need to talk to Liz. You need to talk to Liz. And it always makes me chuckle because, listen, this is the same week that I was doing that big long drive with my inability to set boundaries, LOL. But this broker said that my managing broker had told them that they need to meet with me because that is something that I am very focused on, trying to find that balance, trying to say no, trying to set that boundary for myself so that I and my clients benefit. And so when we sat down and talked about this, I was recalling a situation where only a few weeks ago, And again, this is the difference is week to week, you're in a different scarcity mindset. For me, at least, I can have one week where I'm feeling abundant and like all the opportunities will come to me. And then the next week I will feel disheveled and like, was that my last deal ever? Like, will I ever make another dollar again? It's funny how that happens. Right. But a few weeks ago, in a totally different situation, I had clients who reached out, potential clients who reached out to my team and asked specifically to work with me. And so I got on the phone, and that person had found me via a video on a website. One of the videos, the content pieces that I had made about virtual touring. And so I got on the call with them. We started talking about the process, but then I found out that this person wanted to look all the way up in Bellingham, which, if you aren't in Washington, Bellingham is very far away. It's closer to Canada than it is to where I live. And so on that call, and perhaps it was because I didn't know this person, so I didn't feel a sense of duty in the same way. But I felt very comfortable saying, "Oh my gosh, I am so flattered that you want to work with me. I would love to work with you, but I don't live there. That is very far from me. And I would be doing you a disservice if I took you on as a client because I am not able to drive that far. I am not able to show you at the speed that I would want you to be taken care of. So let me refer you out to somebody so that you can be better taken care of." And it felt like an easy no. It felt like such an easy no. And that, man, that just, it gave me so much freedom. It gave me this lightness that the situation that I then had a week later where I did drive to a totally other city, that feeling of kind of sticky resentment, man, I I couldn't shake it. So that feeling of saying no, of being very clear about what I was and wasn't willing to offer or able to offer, it, number one, it helped me to keep, or I guess regain, but keep control of my time and of my energy. It is allowing me to increase my focus on the work that I'm doing, on the strategic moves that I'm making within my own business, but also for the relationships that I'm actually able to cultivate in my area simply because of physical distance. And lastly, it keeps me feeling aligned with my values, right? With my ability to give generously. If I give in that way, in a way that I know is too much, I know before we've even had a full discussion, I know that that city is way too far for me. If I give in that way to one person, I am unable to give to so many other people. It Every no is a yes to something else. Every yes to something is a no to other things. And that is just something where you really have to weigh it. You have to weigh which ones are going to take precedent. As a recap, you've heard this in the previous episodes as well, but I love pulling just a little teeny weeny bit of science in here. There are three psychological lessons or pieces that I've been thinking about. The first one is fear of guilt or people pleasing in many ways. The second one is that opportunity cost. Okay. And also brain space, cognitive load. Okay. And the third one, self-respect and boundary setting. So within that fear of guilt and people pleasing, so many people, including myself, we overcommit because we are so afraid of disappointing others. And the problem is that saying no often comes with that feeling of guilt. You see the person's face fall, you hear their voice get lower because they're disappointed, and that is so normal. But each no, and this is a muscle you have to build, and I am learning that as well. Each no is a workout for that muscle in disappointing others, because you value yourself and your own priorities. The second one, opportunity cost and cognitive load. Every yes has a cost. Okay. Me driving to that other city where I'm not really, I'm not really an expert in that area. And it truly took me 2 something hours to get down there. Not only did it cost me the time of getting down there because we needed to go down the night before, we stayed with family, But then once I got down there, I learned that I wasn't even part of that MLS. So I wasn't able to access information as easily as I am up here. So that meant that not only was I driving down there, I also had to coordinate things differently because I had to call every single broker to get specific access to the different type of key boxes that they use. I had to take all of those notes because I couldn't access them there. I had to have people send things to me. It was so much more hullabaloo than it was worth. Okay. Every yes has a cost, whether that's time, energy, or mental space. So every yes is a spot in your brain schedule, in your life schedule. When you fill it without thinking about it, you give away room for things that are bigger or more aligned with what you want. Okay. And that's what I love about this. Your stuff is going to look different than my stuff. I want a free afternoon to be able to go and take a workout class. I want a free morning to drop off food to my friend who's just had a baby. I want those things, right? But I also want that space to, like, I don't know, take a nap or catch up on the latest season of Love is Blind. And wanting those things does not prioritizing those things does not make me a selfish or bad person. You know what I'm saying? Got to have the audacity to say no. The last thing is that self respect and boundary setting. Saying no, I said this in the last one, equals self advocacy, which is, in my opinion, a form of audacity. I've mentioned this in a previous episode as well, but once I had a potential speaking client who came to me for coaching, but once I learned what they were looking for in a coach, as much as I knew, oh, this could be a really great opportunity for me. This could be a lucrative opportunity, in fact. But when I heard about what they were looking for in a coach, I knew that that wasn't exactly what I offer. It wasn't aligned with the way that I approach my clients. And I was very clear in that moment, I'm not going to be able to give you what you want because that isn't what I do. And so even though it meant that I was missing out on money, the relationship that came with it, the trust from that potential client who is also a friend, uh, that that to me is so much more worth it, because it also it keeps me feeling honest about what I know I can deliver. And I know for me, if I do a job where I think I'm doing a so-so job, an iffy job, that's going to eat at me way more most likely than it's going to eat at somebody else. And I don't want that for myself either. Not only do I not think it's fair for me to ask somebody to pay for a service that I'm not able to do very well, or that I don't think I can do, that I'm not sure I can do very well, I also don't think it's fair to myself to put myself through the mental stress of knowing that I'm not giving what they want. You know what I mean? This muscle, this stamina to say no, it is something to me that comes in seasons. I mentioned this earlier, but I really believe that my ability to say no is directly correlated with how abundant I feel in my life. Because and that makes total sense. If there's a season where I'm feeling, like I don't have enough money coming in, or if I'm feeling hungry, oh my gosh, this is like coming right back to nutrition. When you're feeling hungry, the you turn to whatever food you can get, not the nutritious necessary food for your health. You turn to whatever you can grab, right? And same thing with clients. I mean, I have had situations where I go, that is so far from me. I'm going to struggle to make that happen, but I really need the paycheck, so I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours in the car, right? It's this feeling of scarcity, of not having enough. And so this comes in seasons and waves. I have seasons where I'm feeling much more abundant and comfortable and at peace and content. And I'm able to say no a lot easier in those times because I trust that more is coming my way. But then there are other seasons where I just don't have that same mentality. And I think to myself, gosh darn it, have I gone back a step? Have I taken a few steps back? And I don't think that's the case. I just think the seasons change. That we cycle through those seasons. So when I'm in a season of saying no, of really being able to prioritize the stuff that matters to me and saying no to the stuff that does not, I achieve greater clarity. I have found more focus, and I've been able to conserve and create more energy for myself to put towards those things that really matter to me. It means that I'm having more meaningful yeses in my work as well as in my relationships. And lastly, it's just in general less stress because I feel yeah, I feel more aligned with my own values, with my own goals for my own life. And the only person who is living with this life realistically is me, and sometimes my husband, but mostly me. Every single no that I've practiced, while it might not have felt comfortable doing it, I usually feel a sense of relief or a sense of expansion afterwards because it creates that energetic space for the stuff that I really did want to put in that slot, right? If we're looking at the schedule, me saying no left room for the stuff that I really did want to prioritize. And while it does not feel comfortable practicing that no, practicing that audacity, right? To want more, that audacity to take up more space. Those two things, they set the stage for your muscle of audacity to say no more often, to prioritize the things that you do actually want to say yes to. So, your takeaway here is that saying no, having the audacity to say no is a muscle. You got to start small, tiny no's, and you got to practice it often to keep that muscle up. With that, this is the end of our Audacity to Say No episode within our Audacity series. Like I said, saying no can feel very uncomfortable. And believe me, I know I'm right there with you. But every no is a chance to reclaim your time, to pull back some of your energy and to focus on the stuff that is uh, truly what you want. Okay. Start small, notice the difference. And remember, Audacity is about taking one intentional step at a time. So, next episode, we're going to talk about the audacity to take risks, to step into uncertainty and into growth. And until next time, practice your nose, and I will talk to you whenever and wherever I talk to you next. Bye.